I'm gonna wait one more minute and then we'll go ahead and get started. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody that's joining us this afternoon. My name is Hernan Maldonado, and I'm the Director of Student Services in the Lyles College of Engineering. We have a great presentation for you, this great academic success workshop that's going to be led by Mr. Jamal Washington for us from SupportNet here on campus. I always like to give a plug for SupportNet. It's a great program. And they always host a great number of workshops that are very useful to all students here at Fresno State. And I want to encourage all of you to register and take advantage of that great resource that's SupportNet and the great presentations and workshops that they host on a regular basis. They do this as a great favor to us here in the Lyles College of Engineering of hosting this particular presentations for us, but they have others as well. And so I wanted to, encourage you to register for those and take a look at their website. They have a great listing of the types of presentations that they are hosting throughout the semester. And so go take a look at their website and feel free to visit and also register for those workshops. So I want to welcome Jamal Washington. Thank you once again, Jamal, for leading this presentation this afternoon for our students here in the Lyles College of Engineering. This is a great time to have this type of presentation. Many of you students have gone through, some stressful time. I know most of you have completed for your first set of midterms in the last couple of weeks. And I know that, we all sort of have this, start doubting ourselves and, according to how we did and the results that from our initial homeworks and first set of midterm exams. So we wanted to host this presentation around this time to provide you with some tips. And, just wanted to tell everybody that we're here to support you. We're here to help you with your success. And if at any time you need, to talk or you need some support, feel free to reach out to all of us. Okay, so thank you, Jamal, and welcome everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And welcome everyone. I'm so excited to be here and share this workshop information with you and really to facilitate a learning experience. So today's workshop is going to be a little bit unique in the sense that your voices and your experiences are also going to shape the collective learning that happens today. So I'm going to go through some presentation slides and some guiding information, but it's really going to take another step in developing the intended learning that we have for this time together when your voices, your experiences, and just your engagement in our activities and everything that we go through in this discussion today and this workshop experience, it just adds so many additional layers to it. And the learning that's had here is something that is attached to all of us, including myself. So getting familiar and getting comfortable with ways to overcome self-doubt, to overcome fear of failure is an ongoing process. It's never a point where you just get to this ultimate peak of confidence and you're just confident for that point forward for the rest of your life. You're always going to have something that triggers those fears, that triggers those points of doubt. And so being a college student, you're going to have a lot of those elements that are embedded not only in your experience as a student and as your journey through education and towards a career, but also maybe personally in the layers of what life and realities look like for you. And so we want to delve through that topic, and I want to pass along some insightful things to help you to be more empowered when it comes to how you face self-doubt, self-doubt? How do you face fear of failures, and how do you move forward through that? How do you turn those things into strengths? How do you turn those things into something that's going to make you feel stronger going about the challenges that stand in front of you? And so a couple things here that I want to introduce as we get started is just, once again, just knowing that there's going to be some activities and some engagement. So I really want there to be realistic, tangible takeaways for each of you. And it's going to look different because this factor and how it plays in our lives looks different for each of us. But your engagement is going to allow you to take the most away from it. So, and your voice is going to add to what someone else takes away, including myself. So just fully engage. Our activities are going to allow you to build on some things that we've gained from other workshops. So you will see the engagement that other students have brought to this space, and we're just going to continue to build on it and really start to build a bigger understanding and broader understanding of what fear of failure, what self-doubt looks like, and then how we can start to plan ways through it. So it's only appropriate to talk about a little bit about myself. Why am I in this space? How have I had to deal with fear, failure, and self-doubt, and what this looks like in the ongoing journey? And so some things to know: my name, Jamal Washington. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I've been an academic coach here in SupportNet now for just over 6 years. I love this work that I do. I especially love the workshop space. This is learning in community. I'm very much a community heavy person, seeing community movements, working together with people, collaborating. It's always an honor to get an invite from Ernan to be here with you all, connect with our engineering students. You guys are on another side of campus, but you guys are very valuable, not only to Fresno State, but just hearing your voices and seeing what you do and the great things that you're going to build as students and what you're going to do in your careers. This is all important. So that community aspect is something I'm really excited about, and seeing it in our workshop space. In my role in SupportNet, I have the opportunity to work one-on-one with students and go through things like resource navigation, reaching academic goals, understanding what those goals are for each student, and then guiding the development of college skills and different things that are needed to be successful. And that's in addition to coordinating our workshop series. So I really have a lot of fun with those roles here on campus, and it allows me to get to know students and get to know the stories. You're more than a name and a student ID number. And so that's what I really enjoy. It's just something that keeps me connected and always around positive energy and ambition, and just seeing that journey and being a part of that is what is fulfillment for me. But as a student, I also recognized that when I went to college, there was a lot of stuff I didn't know. I was first generation. I had no path. I had nobody's footsteps to follow of how do you get to graduation. I was in a very new place, about 90 minutes away from home. And it was really just having someone to take me under their wing in my EOP program and have them as a guide from summer bridge all the way to graduation. And but that didn't come without, even still, with this points of having fears of failure, feeling like, what if this doesn't go right? Having the self-doubt in myself. Did I study enough? Taking an exam and having the thoughts in your mind tell you, you're not going to get this. You don't know the answer. This is not going to go well. Or even just being in a long semester and you get to points where you have a difficult assignment, or you're battling with yourself in some way of what you can achieve or what you will achieve. And even still, as a graduate student now, it's still an ongoing thing. They call it imposter syndrome when you get to graduate school. I guess they got a new word for it, but it's the same thing. Just not believing you belong in that space and doubting that. And so this is an ongoing journey, and it carries into your professional work. Is this good enough? Is this information getting through to students? Are they taking things away? Is it going to make change in their lives? There's always that doubt. So it's something that I have to face, even in my own personal life, and it's something that I'm always reflecting on and looking to sharpen with. So that's the connection we all have in this space. Even though I'm facilitating this discussion, even for myself, this is an ongoing journey. So I want to give you guys some guiding points to keep in mind of going through this, of how we deal with self-doubt, how we're going to face fear of failure, and also, most importantly, what are some of the outcomes that we've intended in this space of being takeaways. So our outcomes are listed here, and one of the top goals here is that I want to help you all identify some of the root causes that are behind self-doubt and fear of failure. as it stands between where we are right now and the achievement and the learning that we hope to get to. Another outcome here is that we want to provide understanding of why it's necessary to embrace failure in the process of reaching our mastery, our achievement, and the specializations that we desire. Our third outcome here is that we want to examine factors that reinforce self-doubt and fear of failure, and then introduce some methods and techniques to overcome them. And last but not least, we're going to engage a critical application phase. So before we go, we don't want this to just be like, I'm lecturing at you all, but what are some ways that you're going to apply a critical application? What are some of the things that are tying into what you're going to do now going forward? That's going to ignite this level of fearlessness in the way that you take on your next steps to dealing with self-doubt, to dealing with the fear of failure and reaching success. So I want to kind of leave that as some endearing thoughts for you after today. What are some things that you can turn into actions following this workshop to better deal with that? So we're going to open up here today with an activity. I'm going to share a link with you all, and then we'll have a short dialogue before we get started. I want to hear some of your voices and put some stories with this for our group collectively before we just start talking about it generically. I want to, kind of personalize it a little bit since we're a smaller, more tight-knit group here. So I'm going to share a link with you all in the chat. And this link is going to take you to Padlet, where you'll build onto some responses that are there. But the prompt that is asked is, in what ways have you experienced self-doubt or the fear of failure? So you can be as detailed or generic in your response, but the more detailed, the more fruitful our conversation can be on this topic here. And all of your responses that go on the Padlet are going to be anonymous. It's not going to attach a name to it as well. After you input your response here, feel free to scroll down and you can see the responses from previous workshops on this same topic. You might be surprised how similar some of these may relate to yourself. So again, the prompt here is, in what ways have you experienced self-doubt or the fear of failure? And also, if you encounter, if you're unable to input information, just send me a message here in the chat and I can double check the access. But I believe you all will have access to go ahead and input your answers here. Okay, I see a building here. Graduation, being able to graduate in 4 years with all my credits. Yes, that can definitely create some fears and doubts of being able to do that. Another one here says, when it comes to focusing in the career I want, it seems like I'm never smart enough or competitive enough to get the job, even though I've taken all the required coursework. Yes. Not feeling good enough to be everything that people around you is wanting to achieve.
Can you tell me one more time how am I gonna add a sentence?
Oh, okay. There's in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a pink plus, and you'll want to click on that, and then it'll allow you to input your response.
All right, thank you.
Yes, you got it. Yes, thank you for sharing these responses. This is really good, and it's specific. These are some real fears. These are some real doubts that set in. Exams, taking exams, lots of anxiety, having trouble sleeping, studying for exams, taking exams and failing them, thinking that you're not studying enough in the process. Self-doubt while talking with the girls, right? Hey, we're being honest right here, right? There's self-doubt when it comes to that, and some things that can either burst your confidence or just have some doubts. Am I doing the right thing? I don't like asking myself too many questions, especially those pertaining to what exactly I'm doing in the future. I just want to have the answer, but I don't. sometimes when I take a closer look at it, I realize I don't have a single clue. I'm really appreciating the honesty here. I can tell we're going to have a great learning experience here today. So uh, feel free to continue adding to this. And if you have time as we go into our next slides, feel free to scroll through here a little bit, or if you want to keep this browser open for this link, just take some time and look at some of the other responses here. You'll find some very insightful things, and you might find some similarities, but I really appreciate the honesty here. So I'm going to jump back over to our presentation. Oh, I see one more that came through. When I transferred to Fresno State, I had a terrible GPA from community college. Now, even though I'm getting a 4.0s and I'm about to graduate, employers don't even give me a chance to explain myself because all they see is my cumulative GPA, not the story behind it. Yes. Okay, we are speaking some truths out here today. So I really appreciate this. These all factor into the doubts we have about ourselves, feeling like there's failure or having fear of failure, that things aren't going to pan out as we originally planned and have put our energy towards. So I really appreciate all this honesty that you all are sharing with this prompt. So we're going to look at what we can do now that we've addressed what are those experiences that have created this fear of failure, what's been fueling the self-doubt that we're sitting on. And there's a key concept that I want us to lead with as we start delving into this. And we've already started the process with our first activity. We started unearthing and started peeling some of those experiences that have created this self-doubt and fear of failure. But something that's important to know as we start to work on this connects to a James Baldwin quote that I want to share with you all. And it says, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." And so we have to face the truth about what is at the root of why we have this self-doubt. Why are we having these fears of failure? And we need to start to unpack that. We need to start delving and really just reflecting on that, because that's going to be the key to moving forward. If we don't face it, we can never get through it. And that's basically what he's mentioning here with this quote. So I want you all to hang on to that, but we've already started the process with our opening activity. So some additional things I want to throw out there that are contributing factors to our fears of failure are going to be rooted in some observations taken from a study, that there's some aspects of either overstriving or self-protection that can be a factor. So a recent study that was conducted amongst high school and university students concluded that the fear of failure can be contributed to overstriving or self-protection as it pertains to success achievement. A lot of what was mentioned in some of those points that were shared in our opening activity, the response that employers have, judgment based on GPA, fear of failing exams, fear of not graduating in a certain timeline, we really have to assess, is this overstriving? Is it realistic to graduate in 4 years in 2021? The way units are and how programs are designed, how rare is 4-year graduation? And am I setting an unfair expectation or overstriving a bit and creating pressure on myself with that? And then the self-protections, especially when we're talking about comparison, is there someone else we're comparing ourselves to as who gets opportunities and feeling like we don't, or who has the certain grades and GPA and I don't actually have that same or feel like I'm matching that at all. It might not even be in reality. It might just be comparatively, we think that we're not at the same level. And so some of those things are what contribute into these factors that play into our fears of failure and our self-doubt. But some additional causes on top of this that just came from this study, because it's so internal that your study is not going to reveal everything. But some additional things to keep in mind are different definitions of failure. How are we defining what success is and what failure is? Because that can play into whether we see ourselves as a success or whether we see ourselves as a failure and have fears of that failure. And different benchmarks are going to outline what success or failure is, different values, different belief systems. So success and failure looks different for everyone. This is going to be unique to each of us because of how we define what success and failure looks like. Also, critical or unsupportive support systems. So if the people who are supposed to be there for you, but they're ridiculing you, they are picking at you, they are, doubting you along the way. it could be your parents, it could be your siblings, it could be your close friends, your roommates. You know, if you have these dreams and aspirations, but they're not standing there with you or cheering for you, sometimes their voice, because it's had value to us, is carrying with us and playing into our self-doubt and our fear of failure. You're not choosing the right major. That doesn't pay. You didn't choose the right major. That's you're never going to get a job in that. I told you to do this. You could be working with me, you know. Sometimes that influence, especially because we have these relationships, can be something that plays into how we see ourselves or how we're thinking about ourselves in our future. And so critical or unsupportive support systems that routinely undermine or humiliate through childhood, especially, can carry into those negative experiences and thoughts of ourselves as we go into adulthood. There's also traumatic experiences that might be associated with failure. So someone gave us some honesty. It talked about, hey, you know, when I try to talk to the girls, there's some self-doubt there. There might be a traumatic experience. Maybe there was a point where, you know, you tried to go out there and shoot the shot with the girls and it didn't go so well. In fact, there might be some embarrassment and some trauma related to that experience. Or it could be an academic experience. I had to do a presentation in class and my PowerPoint didn't work. And I was stuttering, my hands were shaking and my classmates were laughing. And there's some trauma related to that. Whatever it is, those early experiences and associations we have with failure, especially if they happen at a earlier year in life, they carry on with us and they set barriers and boundaries around what we can see ourselves achieving later in life as well. So keep that in mind. Was there an early experience that's kind of shaping into our fear of failure and our self-doubts? Because that can be a factor as well. And last but not least, I mentioned this a little bit for myself, but that imposter syndrome, getting to a point where you feel like you don't belong. And I think I saw some of this in some of those responses as well in our opening activity. Feeling like you in this engineering program, I'm in this classes. My classmates seem like they're so advanced. They got all this information and knowledge outside of what we're talking about in class, and I just don't feel like I'm there. Do I even belong here? Is the industry going to be seeking me out when I'm graduating? I just don't seem to measure up to everybody else, and I just don't feel like I belong. And so that imposter syndrome is very, very real, but we have to start either validating or invalidating that and picking that apart. So that reflection and constantly thinking about that. And what can we do in this time between now and when we complete our program and go into our professions? What can we do to start unpacking that, but then also building ourselves up to strengthen ourselves at the same time? So these are some important things to know. So I want to talk about 7 methods that can be applied to reducing that fear of failure. And in no particular order here, we're going to just go through these here. So one is going to be to have a no shame policy. I think this takes the intimidation off of trying something. Sometimes that's the biggest fear, is just to try, just to try. So going back to the one of talking to the girls, I'm gonna pick on that one because that one, you know, I think everybody can kind of relate to that to some degree, right? But you know, take a chance. What if it goes well? I think that should weigh heavier than if it doesn't happen. You know, you got to take a lot of losses to taste the victory at the same time, right? So sometimes it's just being bold. You know, a lot of those great stories when, you know, you talk to elder relatives and they've been together 50 years. Yeah, we met like this, and the story is great, but it's also a lot of fear and, oh man, I didn't even think I would get the time of day. And so those stories kind of let us know we might be standing in that same moment, but we have to at least try. So embracing this no shame policy, whatever it is, be part of a group where failure isn't followed by laughter, ridicule, and embarrassment. So, you know, when you go out there and you strive for whatever it is, if it's the career, if it's striving to go for an opportunity, an internship, if it's striving to join a club and just doing something and stepping out of your norm, if it's talking to the girl, like it was mentioned there, you know, whatever it is, but you try and you see what happens. You have no regrets. There's a no shame policy. You're building confidence because it took a lot of confidence just to take that attempt. So, and then having yourself surrounded by people who aren't going to laugh at you if it doesn't go well, but they're going to pick you up and make you feel good. Hey, at least you did it, man. I know I wouldn't have been able to do it. You start to feel pretty good about yourself when people see it that way. So embracing that no shame policy. The second one here is to address the problem. So don't just, wallow in whatever it is, and as it says here, be like an ostrich and bury your head in the sand when things don't go well and you're just moping. Thinking about what you can do to make the situation better. Every failure, every point where something didn't go as planned, there's always learning. You know how far away you were from where you wanted to get to. So sometimes just flipping how we think about where we were in that situation is going to help us to move forward. If you apply for a career and let's say you got through the first interview, but you got to the second one and it didn't go so well, hey, my resume is good enough to get me into the interview. Maybe I just need to sharpen my interview skills. And next time I'll get it. I was in the top 5 candidates. So maybe if I just work on a few things, I can now move into the top 1 or 2, or maybe be the person selected. So not every failure has to be viewed as just a failure or a success, but it didn't go as planned, but I was a lot closer than I thought I would get to. And I just now know I need to sharpen on this. So changing and thinking about what it is you can do to make the situation turn out better. This one ties to the third one here, just learning from mistakes. So real failure is only when you don't even try, when you not necessarily blundered, but you've cashed in on the experience. So the only real failure or thing that is a barrier altogether is just not trying at all. But when you make a mistake, that failure is a blunder that you can cash in on as experience later on. This is the value of experience because there's trial and error that happens when you have more experience. So the more times you attempt to apply for jobs, you're going to be getting sharper as it goes. It's not that it's just going to be failure after failure after failure, but you're going to start to be prepared for the questions you hear. You're going to start evaluating your resume. You're going to start reevaluating how you show up, how you interact in interviews. And so even if it takes 3 or 4 interviews before you get an opportunity, what's happening along the way is that you're sharpening. And it's the same if you're trying to go about relationships. You might have 1 or 2 times where you talk to somebody and it doesn't go well, but guess what? You're building confidence. You're building what you're going to talk about. Sometimes that's the scariest thing. I'm going to go over there. Hey, how's it going? And then you get there and you don't know what to say after that. But the more times you go and embrace that and face that, you know what to say next. You know how to engage a conversation. Can anybody relate to that or have some experience with that? I see some reactions over here. I see the thumbs up right there. Okay. You want to tell us a little bit? 2 thumbs up. All right. So you guys are related to that. Okay. Don't bottle it up. So when you have a trusting support system, I think sharing where you are can really show who's a true supporter for you. And that can be a pick-me-up when, whether it's a roommate, a close friend, a classmate that you're close with and you have a few classes with and there's trust there. It could be a faculty member. You could have a professor that's really influential and a mentor to you. It could be a staff member that you've been working with over the years. But don't bottle it up. Don't let it just sit there. And don't forget family, siblings. They can also be support systems for us as well. In our lives outside of the campus and the university, our family and friends can be really close to being able to talk to and have a support system. So consider those things. And if you're not sure where you can go for that, just know you have your advisors in engineering, you have SupportNet. So at least today you have 2 departments that you can reach out to if you really just want to talk about it and not have something bottled up. The last 3 here, you want to question your fears. You want to question those doubts. Are they valid? Do they come from a valid place? Is it irrational? Am I just sitting on something that's highly unlikely to be true? I'm thinking that I just won't get an interview at all, but you've graduated this program. There's a lot of companies that are seeking out students from Fresno State, from this specific program. So is it reasonable that I just wouldn't even get a chance after I graduate? You really want to start peeling that apart and thinking about that. But then at the same time, like I was saying earlier, you want to start taking advantage of the resources to help that become even more untrue. So our career development center, connecting with our advisors, connecting with the faculty, especially those who might be working in the industry you're aiming to get into, and start getting some additional insights of how you're going to move forward and move through some of those challenges you're facing right now. Focus on what you can control. We can't control how other people are going to see us. And that's a big part of our fear of failure and our fear of self-doubt is really the perspective of others, how we are feeling like we appear comparatively to others or how others see us. We can't control what their eyes are going to interpret of what they think about us, but what we can control is how we show up. So a lot of things, when we really start to peel apart what's creating this self-doubt and fear of failure, um, it's really peeling apart, is it true? Is it valid? And really just controlling our energy at the same time. Step number 6 right here is really about controlling your energy. You can lose a lot of energy and a lot of sleep worrying about what other people are going to think about you, or things that are out of your control. But ultimately, you can't do anything about that. All you can do is invest in yourself and try to make a better you tomorrow and the day after. So if you put your focus there, eventually you'll start to see the outcomes and reap the benefits of all of that investment in yourself versus the energy invested in what others think or things that are out of your control. Last but not least, you want to embrace the gray. Success and failure shouldn't be seen as so black and white. It's either this or that. There's somewhere in between that we can end up a lot of times. You know, maybe you have that interest and you go have a conversation with someone you're interested in. You don't get a date, but you get an email address. I seen that look right there. I seen that response, right? Hey, you're in the gray, right? If it's with the class and you're looking about, I want to get an A in this class, but my first exam, I got a C minus. Hey, I got some experience. That first exam, I know what to expect. I got 3 or 4 more in this semester, so I can sharpen it. You're in the gray. It's not failure. It's not the end of the semester and you didn't get an F on the exam, but you're somewhere in the gray and you're building on what you've already established. So if we start to see our experiences as putting us in the gray versus a success or a failure, we can start to move away from that fear of failure, that self-doubt that can kind of start consuming us if we let it manifest and start building on itself. Any questions? I want to stop right here and just kind of hear some of your thoughts on these talking points that we've had to this point of our workshop. You can also share in the chat if you like, whichever option. You can either unmute or you can share in the chat. No comments thus far? Okay, we'll keep moving. I just wanted to create some space for y'all. Okay. So something we see in the Learning Center is this breakdown of how mental retrieval works. I saw a couple responses focused specifically on GPA, test scores, things along those matters. And one thing that's important is the notion of practice testing. So one thing that we've been really pushing as we see students in the Learning Centers, that we'll see students show up and they tell us that, I have an exam coming up and right now my process looks like I'm studying, I'm reviewing the notes, I'm making flashcards, I'm working with a study group. But the element that is missing is the practice testing, walking through that scenario of what the test looks like. So when you have experience, you've taken that first test, regardless of the outcome, you've gained experience. And that's going to be a step in the right direction. And hopefully it's not a terrible test score, but even if it is, you have experience now that you want to build on. Practice testing is going to allow you to start simulating and preparing for the next experience. You know how much time you have. You know approximately how many questions you're going to see. You're probably, after that first exam, going to have a better idea of where your questions for the exam are coming from. Are they coming more so from the textbook? Are they coming from lecture and examples that are presented in lecture? Are they coming from a video that was shared in class, or understanding the concept that was introduced in class? Is it multiple choice? Is it, making connections or solving a problem and doing so over and over and you applying a theory that was introduced in class, you'll have a much better idea of what to expect the second exam because of your experience you gained from the first one. But to add on to that, you want to simulate that by practice testing. You don't want your routine in preparation for exams or big assignments that are coming up to solely rest on how you do the day of and never have simulated and prepared. When it comes to exams specifically, the time can be a factor that you want to prepare for. If you have an hour and you have to answer 30 questions, you got 2 minutes per question. And so you not only want to prepare for, I know this content, but can I answer 30 of these types of questions in that time without getting to a point where I got to rush myself to finish the last 4 or 5 questions or 10 questions? So when you practice test, you can walk through that and start preparing for that in addition to the content. So you want to prepare for pace, but also for content at the same time. A lot of times that's the missing element when it comes to preparing for exams, is that we haven't practice tested. We've reviewed it and it's familiar, but then when we get a test and we're timed, it's nervous time. And think about some of the shows that come on television. There's so much nerves when you time people to do stuff, whether it's supermarket sweep and you got to run through the store and grab stuff in a certain amount of time, or if we're talking about the cooking shows where you have to bake a cake, but you're timed. All of those people have been in the grocery store before or have baked and stuff, and they have experience cooking, but it's that timing element that creates the nerves that makes it get messy. And the same thing happens when we look at exams. As soon as you have that timed element, there's so much nerves, there's so much doubt, there's so much messiness that happens. There's so much, oh, that's not the right answer. I just bubbled it in too fast. And so if we start to prepare, we can be more prepared for when we're in that actual situation on the actual exam. It doesn't matter that we're in the classroom and the teacher is in front of us, or that we're in front of our computer and the timer has started, but we've prepared for the time. So we're prepared to work on what it is we have to know and show our mastery, but we're also prepared for the time element. So practice testing is really important. In this chart, it just shows that every time, whether it's facts, concepts, in all 3 different experiments that were done on those who simply restudied versus those who practice tested, those who actually went through practice testing did significantly better than those who only restudied the information. And you can see by how much of a difference. So from 30% to 60%, or from, it looks like 35% to 60%, those who did the practice testing method of preparing for their tests and exams did so much better than those who simply restudied the information. So now I'm going to play a short video here that is going to give a different kind of breakdown of how the fear of failure and embracing failure and getting to a point of mastery is an important thing that we want to embrace when it comes to how we're moving forward through our fear of failure. When I play the video, can you please just give me like a quick thumbs up just to let me know you can hear the audio here? I just want to make sure you all can hear it well.
No, yeah, I can't hear it.
Can't hear it? Okay, let me try this again.
Sounds muffled, actually.
A little muffled. Okay, let me see if I can turn it up a little bit here. Try this again.
When Pablo Picasso was an old man, he was sitting in a cafe, scribbling on a napkin. He didn't know it, but a woman sitting near him was looking on in awe. A couple of minutes later, Picasso finished his coffee, crumpled up the napkin, and was about to throw it away. But the woman stopped him and said, "Can I have that napkin? I'll pay you for it." "Sure," said Picasso. "That will be $20,000. The woman was stunned. "What? It only took you 2 minutes to draw that." "No, ma'am," Picasso replied. "It took me over 60 years to draw this." Picasso lived to be 91. When he passed away in 1973, he had amassed a net worth of around $500 million, and his art had become famous all over the world. His output was exceptionally prolific. The total number of artworks he produced has been estimated at 50,000, comprising a large number of paintings, drawings, sculptures, ceramics, prints, tapestries, and rugs. By honing his craft for decades, Picasso eventually reached a point where he could charge $20,000 for a 2-minute napkin scribble, or at least deliver a pretty damn cool one-liner about it. Anyway, the takeaway here is that mastery takes time. Therefore, we need to be consistent in our practice. And to do that, we need to be able to make mistakes without losing momentum or giving up. To become really good at what you do, you have to be comfortable failing at it. To become remarkable, you have to be willing to fail more than anyone else around you.
Okay. So what were some takeaways just from that brief kind of walkthrough of Pablo Picasso's overcoming fear of failure and getting to a point of mastery? What are some things that maybe apply to how you're going to look at applying mastery going forward?
I'll probably say taking your time and just being consistent with what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah, consistency, you know, over time you start to build consistent habits and you're building a level of mastery, whatever it is that you're doing. Over time, you just become a specialist and really get good at what it is that you're focused on. And Pablo Picasso's case, it was his artwork. Did I see someone else wanting to share? Oh, I see here in the chat. I really like when the narrator said you had to be comfortable with failing in order to get better at what you do. This is absolutely true. No matter what it is, you have to be comfortable with failing. Failure is different and it's defined differently. So in our work, it could be, you know, this wasn't what I wanted it to look like. So I'm going to work on it again. I'm going to design another one. I'm going to rework on this. A lot of the stuff that we enjoy today are a modified version of previous prototypes of things that were viewed as failures before we ended up with the actual model of what it is we have now, whether we're talking about phones, cars, shoes. They go through phases of prototypes before you get the one that's actually available for the public to consume. So, you know, there's so many different things that are shaped by the process of trial and error, facing a failure and then going back and revising it or making a better version of it and making a better attempt the next go around. So you're definitely right. Embracing that notion of failure, it's all around us. But in our experience, we just want to embrace those things that are failures as part of the process to get into mastery. Thank you. So we're going to keep going here. And we're going to move ahead to our second activity here, which is now going to go through Menti. And the question here is going to be reflecting on a previous failure. And the prompt here is asking, you know, as we reflect on that previous failure or instance of self-doubt, what is something that you learned through that experience? So I'm going to share this link to our second activity in the chat. And just like our previous, you'll see that there's an ongoing thread of responses here. Your responses here will also be anonymous, but it's just going to build on things that are learned when reflecting on a previous failure or an instance of self-doubt. What is something you learned through that process? And with this, you can input a one word or a short response, and you can input multiple responses. On my screen here, you will see that the responses have filtered into a word cloud. So the most prominent responses here are more central, more pronounced terms. So our previous groups in inputting their responses, you can see that tenacity, endurance, patience, experience, resilience, time management, growth, acceptance. These are some of the themes that stood out. but feel free to add your own things that you've learned from a previous failure or instance of self-doubt. What have you learned in that process? And also with this one, if you run into issues submitting your answers, just send me a message in the chat. I believe this one should also allow you to input your responses, but just in case, just go ahead and let me know. Refresh this also. All right, see some movement here. Any learning, so you can do one word responses or you can put a short statement. All right, see a little bit of faith emerging, hope, grace, growth, tenacity. I see a couple new terms kind of moving into the forefront: dedication, respect, strength, determination, staying positive. Yeah, a lot of change happening to our word cloud. So thank you all for contributing what you've learned in the process of a previous self-doubt or a previous point where there was a fear of failure, because this is contributing to our bigger picture of being in this space and having these conversations about this topic. All right, so now we're going to get ready to wrap up here. So we talked about and we saw in the example with Pablo Picasso that we want to embrace failure. And more specifically, you want to fail early, you want to fail often, and you want to fail safely. Does anyone want to talk about what this might look like or what they think this may mean to fail early, fail often, and fail safely? Kind of has the wheels turning. I see the wheels turning and can sense they're turning here. But when you think of, especially in engineering, this can relate to trial and error, for example. So rather than the first thing that you put together being all or nothing, that first attempt can really be viewed as a trial and error. You still want to, design something that's going to work out the gates, but a lot of times we just have to embrace that process, that the first prototype that we put together or something might not be the best, and we can come back and refine it and get some ideas, or maybe discover what some of the points are that we want to improve and some features we want to add to it. But that's basically failing early. We know that our first attempt is going to be something that we have to refine. So when you have that mindset, if it doesn't go as planned the first time around, guess what? We didn't set the bar so high on that first one, because we're always looking to improve going forward. Failing often, the process may involve a failure after a failure after a failure after a failure, before you get to a point of where success is just beyond what you imagined it to be. And when we go to our next couple slides, you'll see some real examples of that in society, some real life famous examples of that. And then fail safely. An internship may be an example of failing safely. You learn all the things you want to know in a professional career in an internship. You learn all of those things in the classroom. Hey, let me make all the mistakes in this lab before I go out there in the field and make them in my professional career. Let me just learn all of those things right now. Oh, I shouldn't, fire and gasoline don't go together. Let me, don't mix those two. But, you know, you learn all of those things in your classroom in the setting where you can fail safely so that it doesn't become something where your reputation or just the point where you're failing is going to cost you immensely more than it should. So thinking about where can you fail safely? Let me fail safely by going to tutoring and getting all of the problems I need to know for the test wrong there before I fail on the actual test. Let me fail in my study time and work on problem after problem after problem and not get it to get to a point where the light bulb goes off and I have it and I'm not failing on the test. Let me get all of the red markings and highlighted and things circled on a practice draft of an essay before I get all of that on the actual one. So that could be some notions of what fail safely looks like. If I'm gonna get my work marked up, if I'm gonna get critiqued, if I'm gonna get torn apart, let me have it happen in practice. Let me have it happen in a safe setting and not in a setting where this is where I have to step up and be at my best. Let me go through a mock interview and make all the mistakes there versus in the actual interview. So you kind of see where I'm going there. You fail safely in some safe settings versus in the settings when you have to be at your best. And so that's what it means. Fail early, fail often, fail safely means to embrace those steps. Going into those scenarios, again, going back to our practice testing, make the mistakes on the practice test and not the actual one. Those are the ways that you're going to overcome the fear of failure and the self-doubt. So like I was mentioning earlier, we have a lot of examples of people who failed early, failed often, and failed safely. To some degree, Walt Disney had started his own business, but he was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination and having no original ideas. That was his early failures. But his early failures allowed him to refine what he was doing and sharpen himself and remarket and rebrand himself. And we know where Disney is at today. Another example here on this list of famous failures includes J.K. Rowling, who's a famous author, but at one point she was unemployed, divorced, raising a daughter on Social Security. And her first Harry Potter novels were rejected by 12 different publishing houses before it got picked up. A couple other examples on this list include the Beatles, Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jordan. All of them at some point were famous failures before getting to the point where they were famous and acclaimed for these great things that they contributed or invented. There was failure in that process, but they had to embrace that failure. And in the case of J.K. Rowling, for example, 12 different failures, 12 different times a publisher didn't pick up her book before it finally took off. And so this is what it can look like sometimes, is that you have to walk through and face that fear. You have to face that failure time and time and time again. We may know about Michael Jordan's experience with this high school team. His coach didn't make the team. And he went to his room and cried in high school when he didn't make the team. But we all know what happened after that. When he came out that room, what his resolve was. He had to face that fear. He had to face that doubt. And so these are some examples here. And I know these are famous examples, but overcoming fear of failure, overcoming fear of doubt actually happens every day. And there's everyday people who are walking examples of overcoming failure and doubt. And so that same resolve, that same response is something that we want to embrace going forward. And as you see here on the bottom of this image, if you've never failed, you've never tried anything new. And that's the key thing to embrace. You have to try something new. You have to try. So I want to wrap up with our critical application. We've introduced some ideas, and coming into this, we threw out some examples of what failure, what self-doubt has looked like, but we also talked about how nuanced this is going to look, how unique this is going to look for each of us here. So whether it be in the chat here or just, unmuting and sharing aloud with each of us that are here, our small group here, what are some things that you can take action on to have more control of how you deal with self-doubt and how you are dealing with the fear of failure.
Uh, Something I definitely would have to learn is probably being patient with whatever I'm currently in. Math class is something I need to be able to get better at, and yeah, probably patience would be a big part of that, and getting better and growing.
Yes. Yes, that's an excellent uh, takeaway, that you have to be patient in the process. Sometimes we want to see results right away, but there can be a process in how we reach mastery or how we reach a point where things get to where we want to see it. So that patience is something that it has to come from a place sometimes when we're on our own timetable. One thing I would recommend as well is give yourself words of encouragement as you stick with the process too, because that can make it easier to be patient. Or if you have a peer that can give you words of encouragement along the way. So if you're working with a peer or a classmate or a study group, just letting each other know, hey, let's encourage each other along the way, and that can be helpful in staying patient. But thank you for sharing that. Let's hear one more takeaway here before we wrap up. What's one more thing that someone's planning to do, either to take more control of how we deal with self-doubt or dealing with the fear of failure? I see here, actually getting work done. It's one thing to say you'd get something done, but another to actually complete the workload. Yes, yes. Yeah, following through. That's a big part. Showing up. That's a huge part of it, right? Um, it can feel a certain way to have these commitments and then not follow through. It starts to become your reputation. People who you want to believe in you start to not believe in you, especially when you don't show up or follow through. So that's a big part. When you commit to the work and actually get the work done, it can be satisfying. It can build your confidence. So I really like that suggestion right there. Yeah, getting the work done, putting in the work, committing to the work. Yes. So yeah, I see we are right at 5 o'clock here. I know everyone's afternoon and time is precious. I really appreciate the engagement here. I like the honesty we had coming in, the voices, the chat. Um, and so this workshop and this topic is really important. This is what keeps the motor going of our ambitions and our drive towards our goals. So when you're able to tap into overcoming these barriers, and a lot of times they're the barriers that are created in our own mind, our own thoughts. um, it's important to take that point of reflection. Take a lot of the feedback and the suggestions and examples that your peers shared in the chat, the peers that are here today and those who've been in the same space earlier, and seeing their responses and kind of diving through those, because this is something that's a commonality across the campus. And while it can look like our peers and everyone in this space has it all together, we feel like we're the only one who's struggling or doesn't have it together. There's a lot of commonality when it comes to the fear of failure, the self-doubt. And so just knowing that you're not alone in that, but then you also have support systems that you can turn to. And so again, if it's a more in-depth conversation, maybe a one-on-one setting, whether it be with an advisor, a faculty, a peer, support net, we are all here for you. And so I'm so glad to have this time to be with you all today and talk about this. If you are looking to talk about this further or talk about it in more detail, feel free to reach out to me. I am going to share my email here in the chat with you all. So if you are interested in setting an appointment, I can do a Zoom, in-person, phone appointment. Feel free to reach out to me. And here is my email.
Thank you, Jamal, and thank you, everyone. Thank you for everyone for joining us this afternoon for this great topic, great insight. Thank you so much. You know, and again, we encourage you to reach out and take advantage of the resources that are available to you. Okay. So thank you. Please reach out to Jamal or to us. Thank you all, and have a great afternoon, great evening. Thank you, Jamal.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Jamal. Have a good day, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.